Welcome to Apex Esports League. Tonight is the Hamper HQ GT3 World Tour. Tonight we have the round 3 of the 4-round series, and that is with Bathurst Mount Panorama. Tonight's session we have practice session heading over for 15 minutes. Weather is medium cloud, qualifying 15 minutes. Weather is heavy cloud. Then the sprint race is 9 laps, and then we have a weather of medium cloud, no mandatory pit. We'll have a 9-minute break and then we'll head over into the second session. So we've got 15-minute qualifying with weather light cloud, and then the main race is 18 laps. Weather clear, mandatory pit for the main race. Last week we saw Gallen take a double win in the sprint race and the main race, and also qualified first for both of those. So he's currently leading the championship with 268 points, and followed closely behind by about 90 points is Weaven, 777, 0143 and Sami. So we'll have a quick look at the track. So of course, Bathurst Mount Panorama, track length is 6.21 kilometres with 23 turns, and the game session time will be starting at 9 o'clock for the practice. So there'll be some slightly colder track temps with weather having medium cloud, but the season is summer, so it will be slightly warm, but it'll be quite slippery in those first couple of laps. I think I'm getting a bit of an echo, so I'm going to try and fix that. Joining us for the stream, don't forget to join in on the chat for Twitch. And if you haven't yet followed our channel, be sure to hit the follow button so you can get notified when we go live. And we've got our social media links all down below as well, so you can head over and follow us on our Facebook page, or even if you don't have Facebook, you can actually still head over there and see all results and standings. So after each session, once the replays are being reviewed, you'll get reports for any incidents that have occurred on track as well. So a slightly smaller field at the moment. Hopefully we get some later joiners for tonight's session. The Gallen 350 is the championship leader, and drivers are competing for a lovely hamper, proudly being given by Hamper HQ. It's a value of $165. So far, Gallen 350 is sitting in a good position to be sitting back and enjoying that lovely hamper. Can Weaven, Azura and Sami try and take some wins and steal some points away to be able to have a chance at taking that home? So the final round is on next week. So that's Zhuhai International Circuit, and it's big points up for grabs for the final round. So it's just the one race, the longer endurance race. However, they will be 120 points up for grabs for a win. So if we can have some of our current top drivers get a double win here tonight, and then have a good strong finish in the final round, they could potentially just scrape ahead of Gallen. Just depends on how he finishes in tonight's round. And we've had Kakadu manage to be able to join us. He is away from his console at the moment. He should be back later. He has to go off and get his dinner. Zero is coming third in the championship with 173 points. Last week we saw him take 4th position in the sprint race, and he took 2nd in the main race. And that was at Monaco, so Zul Circuit. And then of course Bathurst is a big track favourite amongst our drivers. I'll look at some statistics for Azuro. So Azuro's been averaging about 43 points per race. Gallon 350 has had the strongest average, 67 points per race. His average race position is actually first, so with a 0, his currently average race position is third. So still a strong contender for some good wins in these next 2 rounds. It looks like Gallon just scraped the wall a little bit coming through Forest's elbow. We've seen the Ferraris dominate the field a fair bit. We've had a sea of McLarens which have done pretty well in behind those Ferraris. However, maybe a little bit different with being in Bathurst. Mountain Straight, and especially Conrod Straight, is going to see a very big disadvantage to top end speed to the Ferraris. First time's coming in. Zero's set a 204. Gallon's Zero's set a 206. Gallon's set a 204. Joanna in the GTR has set 222, so he's taken it quite easy on that first lap. I think Joanna's going to have a pretty good car as an all-rounder for the conditions for the mountain. Same with Bertie in the Bentley. He's going to potentially have a good advantage on those straights. And the car's probably going to sit nice and tight. Ooh, a bit of a wall hit. I don't think that's going to pull a couple of hits. The game is a little bit forgiving with wall scrapes. You can do a couple before it starts doing some performance impacting damage. However, it does invalidate qualifying times, so they will need to be quite cautious of that once they head into the qualifying session. We'll get the speedo up for the Bentley as he's heading up Mountain Straight. Racing 245 before having to get on those anchors. We'll see who's next. Over to the Ferrari. No, so the Ferrari a lot quicker. It is custom setups. Our drivers' setups will be key in this as well. Make sure these cars are quite optimum for the technical corners going through the mountain, but then also to have the aerodynamic ability to get that extra speed on the straights. Strasbourg's McLaren showing some good scratches up the side of that Just Cuts car. Ooh, locking, narrowly avoiding. I think that is a nominal that's gone out. He's reset that around. A little bit of a lag skip. That's taken a fair bit of damage to that left side. Mustn't be too bad. Taking that car cautiously at the moment. So, not sure if he's bringing that car in. McLaren's topping out 273, 274. Oh, Demon Effects has just gone off track, so he's just exceeded track limits. Who we've got. He's going up Mountain Straight. Let's see if we can find a Ferrari going down Conrod and just see how they're going for their top speeds. Well, who else is driving? Demon Effects was. I've got a little bit to get around for a lap before we can see just what Conrod is doing for speed. Demon Effects has brought that car in, so he's possibly taken a fair bit of damage as he's gone off track. sure if Bertie's doing this on controller or steering wheel. He now does have a steering wheel. He managed to get in and join us for iRacing in the Kia Optima Championship on Tuesday. He did say it was quite a bit different going from controller to steering wheel. So he said he was going to potentially stick with the controller for a little bit until he gets used to it. So he does manage to drive these things in this game very well on control. We've just had Gallen go off track. Actually, that's Weaven. We'll see how Weaven goes down. Conrad, he's had not the best run out of Forest Elbow, so he may be a little bit off pace. Yes, we're probably going to see a difference of about 5 k's an hour. And Weaven is coming second in the championship. So he's the next contender. He's only very close to zero. He's only 6 points behind Weaven 777. That's about 89 points difference between Weaven and Gallen. Weaven can have a very strong result tonight. He will also be in a very good position to try and score himself the great prize of this hamper. Weaven's yet to get a time on the board. This should be his good hot lap. Strasbourg moving over for Weaven on Mountain Straight. Demons set a 207. There's a fair few 207s. So we've got 4 cars setting a 207. And they are McLarens. Except for Demon with his Ferrari and Bertie with the Bentley. If China improves his time here. Take a moment to update. See how he went with that last lap. Ooh, only 0.6 off his best time. He's doing some consistent times. 204 is looking very promising for Gallen. 2 seconds or 1.3 seconds ahead of a zero. Oh, a bit broad. Going to Griffins. A little bit wide going up the cutting. The car seeming to want to slip a little bit. Things have a fair bit of oversteer going on with the GTR at the moment. Not sure what's happening for Gina. I think he's fighting with his car a little bit, just a bit of understeer with it then. Nice purr coming out of it as he heads down the mountain. A bit of oversteer there coming out of the elbow. Let's see how he tops out down the straight. That's getting some good top end speed. That's one of the quickest ones down Conrod so far. Don't forget, if you're joining to the stream, use those sound controls down below. Have some fun with the stream, play some sound effects. Bring the car into the pits. Roar of that McLaren. No, just bringing it out from that wall. That was a very tight line. He scrapes the wall along skyline. That's put him off. Hasn't invalidated his time, but it's definitely cost him some time out of that lap. Strasbourg and John are both setting 2:10s. Bunty is set at 2:11. Won't see Kakadu set a time. Hopefully he'll be back in time and ready to go before the start of the race. Otherwise it'll drop him out and he'll miss out and have to wait until the second session. And we are missing Simo Simsel as well. So he should hopefully be able to make it by the second session, he has said. 40 seconds remain. This will be last laps. Oh, that is so tight. Scraping that wall. Oh, just narrowly touching that wall as well. And once again, that is a blistering lap here. Slides that rear out coming into Skyline. A little bit of slip coming down into the S's. How does he manage the dipper? Slightly wide, yeah, and that puts him off into that next corner. Flash of the lights, he's probably just saw himself on the stream. He does watch the stream while he is racing. Oh, and a big hit in Forest Elbow. Practice is complete. Last lap. Oh, and wall contact as well in the Bentley. They'll be frustrated with it. Oh, that is a lot of understeer coming out of McPhillamy. That thing is an absolute beast trying to get down through the mountain. You can see the body roll shifting about as it's tossed back and forth. And looks of his steering, he's definitely doing it via controller. So micro adjustments to the steering as he's going. I can't see what the speed is on mine, but you can see it on the stream. We saw 274 as the quickest going down here. The GTR and the Bentley seem to be the quickest down Conrod. Birdie can get this Bentley to handle quite well over the mountain. He will be a good contender to get a win. This is his last lap now. It's 50 seconds left for drivers to get their last laps done. Strasbourg finishing up his last lap. Then we'll be set to head off into qualifying. Bit of damage for Strasbourg's car, not sure if that's from a previous lap or not. Nice line through Murray's. We'll improve that time. Oh, we don't see. Didn't look like improved on that. So Gallon 350 setting quickest time, so a 204.750, 1.3 seconds off. There's definitely some opportunity for some drivers to make some improvements. There's a fair bit of time difference in Sector 2 amongst the drivers, so a couple of seconds there just from the first 10 from what we can see. So it'll be interesting to see how things go in the qualifying session. Game time has now progressed by an hour, so it's now 10 AM. However, weather's changed to heavy cloud and not so much sunshine heading through. Ambient temperature will potentially increase, however track temperature will probably have dropped a little bit. We may see a little bit slower in qualifying times. Gallon a 0 and as a normal out on track rather quickly. Sami out there now as well. Why is Gallon's car lag skipping? I think there may have been a bit of lag involved in that. Yeah, his car is jittering about a fair bit. He may not have actually hit the wall there. That may just be... Yeah, that is from lag. So we've seen him hit the wall, but I don't think he's actually hit it. Hopefully does not have connection issues. And he's defending the championship. He does not want to get a disconnect. Potentially lose some qualifying points, then miss out the opportunity to get into the race and earn some further points. I should get rid of results up the top. That may be a little bit easier to see. Oh, he's definitely taking damage now. He'll bring that car back in. There's a normal and a zero, both trying to get some warmth into the tyres on this McLaren. Oh, gets it off track slightly. Oh, they've made contact. That's going to be very costly. They probably both want to have to bring that car in. Yep. Especially a zero. He would have taken a fair bit of front end damage. Yeah, and then I think there's a little bit too much rear damage to that car, as it did not want to hold grip to the rear as it went round into the chase, so he's also brought that back in. That's cost them another lap, so they've got to do another cold lap around, which won't count. As a Nommel's just copped a time penalty. And I know we haven't had anyone disconnect, I don't think. I usually can't see if someone has until we get into the cockpit view. No, we haven't lost anyone. I thought I saw a name drop off. That is fine. I'll have a look and just see how many 2 grid places given to as a normal, so a significant speeding penalty for that one. We also got on the pedal forgetting that pit limiter was not set. Hopefully he gets a strong position to make up for that penalty. Looks like Weaverton's car had some damage. Yes, he's got a bit of damage to his car. Yeah, nice speed going down Conrad. Not sure if he brought that car back in after making contact already. Looks like it may be fresh damage. Seems to be handling okay, and to get some alright speed, so it's possibly being brought back in. 10 minutes remain. Drivers just finishing up their first laps. So these laps are the hot ones, they will now count. See how this Bentley goes down through the mountain. Much nicer line than before. Oh, beautiful line through Forest Elbow. That's going to give him a nice run down onto Conrod Straight. First time's coming through a zero, setting at 220. Demon FX 220 as well. Gallon comes through for 206. It's not bad for first times. So we had all that have cost him this lap and possibly the next of running wide in the chase. Let's see if this gives him a time. It hasn't come up on my feed, but that does not mean it may not be it. No, Birdie sets a 2:07. It's on par with his time in the practice session. That Bentley performing quite well. So he's running it quite low on fuel. May have to be possibly a strategy for Bertie to handle the weight of this car. He's brought that in. He's obviously been pretty happy with that. Gallen's still showing a little bit of lag going on. But he has set a 2:06. Stradesburg's coming in with a 2:08. Bunty's set 2:10. John is in the 2:11s. Zero and Demon Effects taking a much slower lap, so they probably were still trying to get some temperature into those tyres, and there was a fair few marbles sprayed out over the bend into the skyline. The sign has gone off there. Drivers do need to be quite cautious heading around there. It'll be a little bit slippery coming into skyline. Weaven's come through, and Demon Effects. The quickest times is only less than half a second between the two of them, so a 2:06.251 is the quickest time so far. And I am expecting possibly a second slower than what we saw in the practice. Possibly towards the end, as game time is ×2, so half an hour will have progressed by the end of the qualifying session. So that'll make it game time of 10:30 AM. Track temp should start to go up as this session goes on. There's 7.5 minutes remaining of qualifying. You can see a few more laps get set yet. And if Santi improves his 2:10, or only just so 2:09.999 for him. There's a normal yet to get a time on the board. Not sure if this lap is a cold or hot lap. He needs to get a very strong qualifying position to cop that. Definitely must be his cold one if he's still doing some weaving, getting some temp into those tyres. I'm not sure what car, we don't get to see what car did actually pick. Oh, Gallons just hit that wall. And again, that's been a hard hit. You have to get that car out again, so he's come through for 2:05.105, so he's reclaimed pole. The zero is not far behind, just under 0.9 of a second. Well, and Weaven's just come through with a 2:05 as well. They are doing some quite good times. Weaven in a zero, making a big improvement on their practice session times. Oh, that's been costly right at the end of the lap. And then that'll invalidate this lap as well. He didn't have damage, he may have paid to just continue on for him. Weaven also taking damage. Just finding a safe spot to pull over so we can bring that car back to the pits. A lot of hits being made so far. Not sure if that is the cooler track temperatures that is playing with them. Sprint race game time will be 11 AM. Weather will be medium cloud. The track temp will be a lot better than what they're experiencing at the moment. Be interesting to see what they do for tyre choices, whether they do choose to go hard tyres or soft. It may not just be hot enough for the hard compound. They're in the main race for its 18 laps. Weather is clear, so definitely get able to run some hards, especially in the front, as that's where they tend to scrub quite a fair bit. Demon Effects doing quite well through the mountain. Hands in just a little bit short coming out of Forest Elbow. Jump on board for a lap around the mountain. Coming down into the chase. Needing to get that car very straight before getting on those anchors. Otherwise it will just slide out into the runoff. Nice line through Murray's. This will get him for a nice run into a very good start of a lap. Sound like a skyline coming out of pits just then. It's up Mountain Straight. We saw about 245 being hit before. It was a 250. Nice line into Griffins. Oh, that's cost him. I think that would possibly invalidate this lap. Up through the cutting. Very easy on the throttle going up. It's very off camber and crest as well. So going too hard on the throttle tends to put the car in a little bit of slide as you go up into there. Past Filmies into Skylines. You can see the marbling glistening on the track where cars have gone off into Skyline. Down into the S's. Nice line. Oh, a little bit off. It's going to put him offline for the dipper. It's recovered. A bit of marbling there as well, so they have to be cautious. Get the car over as far as possible to get a nice line for Forest Elbow. Hug that wall. And then flat out. And he's beating his best lap. He needs 0.4 of a second to move up the next spot. However, as a normal, does have 2 grid place penalties. And then coming up to finish up a lap around the mountain, courtesy of Demon Effects. Let's see if he does improve this. Hey Giddo, thanks for joining us. Yeah, definitely some bust ups. Always exciting action on the mountain. Oh, just off his best lap. Thanks for Demon taking us around. As a normal has come up with 4th, but he does have the 2 grid place penalty. So if things stay as they are at the moment, that'll see him drop 2 places. Demon Effects and Sami will move up. Demon Effects and Sami want to get a spot further up, they need to shave off some time to try and get ahead of Weaven and Azuro for the next lines. Gallon 350 not able to make that 204 that we saw in the practice session. Yeah, I think it'll be a good battle between Gallon and Weave and Giddo. Ferrari's in matching team colours as well. It'll be good to see them fight for it. And it's good that Weaven's been able to make it for this round as well. We were expecting him not to be able to make most of the rounds. Oh, no, it's going to cost him, but this will give him time to get around. Oh, no, it would have invalidated potentially that lap and the next, so it may not be worth him going around for another one. Yeah. So cutting the corner on that last corner will have been a big disappointment for him. He's only just off Gallon's time. Oh, sorry, that was Gallon that we were following it, not Weaven. And they both brought it in anyway. And 0.9 of a second off of taking pole. Can he make an improvement? Nice line. Will that see him improve a 205.949? It improves it, but he's only 0.05 off from Weaven's time. That is very tight indeed. As a normal, needing to make some improvements. He does, he moves up another spot, so that's a good compensation for the 2 grid place penalty. 30 doing well with that Bentley. Saw him struggle first off in the practice session. He was getting the car down pat by the time we got into qualifying. He's on par with his times from the practice session. He's set a 207 over the other cars. The other McLarens that currently set a 206 did also set 207s in practice. The Bentley's not doing too bad. Giddo through Bathurst is getting some good top end speed and wasn't doing too bad down through the mountain. He was struggling with it at first, but he's done well and he's taken 7th position. So Gallon 350 takes pole position, followed by Weaven 777, 0. Ezanomal takes 2 places, so he'll move down into 6th position. So Sami now moves up into 4th, and Demon Effects into 5th. And that's followed by Bertie, Strasbourg, Giant, Sunti, and Kakadu is away from his console. He may be back in time, I think. He's probably eating his tea now and will be almost ready to go into the race. We'll see if he ends up dropping out. He'll go as a DQ if he doesn't hit that ready in time. Drivers now have a couple of minutes to get their setups ready for the sprint race. I'll have a look and just see what Kakadu did actually pick for his car now. So he's also in the Ferrari. And the pack led by 2 Ferraris, followed by 2x2 in McLarens for the next 2. Then we've got a Ferrari and a McLaren, and then a Bentley and McLaren, and then we've got Sunti's Ferrari, and then Gina in the GTR. GTR was doing some quite good top speed. We saw going down Conrod. We did see it get quite broad in the rear going up and down the mountain. So I'm not sure if it's a car setup that Gina needs to try and make some adjustments. Hopefully he's made some adjustments and get this car to perform well. But with the mountain, you've got to keep that car between the walls. Keep it on the black. Otherwise, all that work in setting a good qualifying position can quickly come to an end. As we've seen from many other series, when we compete at Bathurst, it usually drops a few drivers. Usually has a few casualties. The Kakadu's just dropped out of the grid, so he didn't make it back from dinner in time. Alright, it's about to go green. And start of the first race for round 3. And Gallen gets away nicely in time. A0 is also tucked away, so a delayed start by Weaven, so he's dropped down to 3rd position now. Weaven just scraping in back behind A0, coming into Hell Corner. Looks like a clean, tidy start so far, but A0 is already hot on the tail and making a pass on Mountain Straight. The McLaren having a big speed advantage. Gallen's going to have to tuck that car in if he goes into Griffin's bend with that speed on the inside. He would have actually gone straight out into the wall. Looks like incident free so far. This is looking good to a very good start. Zero now is getting ahead of Gallen quite quickly. This is what Zero needs to be able to have a chance at taking this prize home. Very tidy driving so far by the entire field. Oh, he almost ran off in Skyline, so Gallen has now caught back up pretty quickly. So Gallen quite quick going up the mountain. Slightly different line made by a Zero, really defending off Gallen. Gallen's going to have a huge advantage here. He tucks in nice and tight behind a Zero. Coming down Conrod's going to have a big slipstream advantage. Oh no, that's Weaven's car, sorry, that is not Gallen's. Gallen has dropped back into third. Not much of a speed difference, but Azuro got through the chase a lot quicker than what Weaven did. Have a look and see how he goes. Gallen's quickly catching up behind Weaven as well. Oh, we've just had Sami run off into Murray's corner. He's made wall contact, cars are going around him. They've all gone around. Not sure how much damage. It looks like he may have made front wall contact. We have Santi looking to pass Gina at the moment, side by side up Mountain Straight. I would think the Skyline would have the speed advantage, but that Ferrari has snuck past. Some good pace. Oh, but Santi's just put it into the wall and then gets back in. He almost makes contact to Gina's car. Weaven still honing down Azuro. Ooh, not sure what was happening there. I think that was a little bit of an oversteer. Two Ferraris flat out right up against the wall from McPhillamy. Down to the S's. And here the McLaren backed off a fair bit. The Ferrari should be quite nimble making their way down through the mountain. You can throw these things around quite well. But that McLaren getting away. Nice line coming out of Forest Elbow. I don't think there's going to be potential for a pass coming up here. We have Demon Effects quickly catching up to Ez and Nommel, and Bertie's not far behind as well. Didn't get to cover too much ground to make up behind Azuro. Coming on to lap 3 now. Weaven really catches up to Azuro coming into Murray's corner. Braking line must be quite different to, and then Azuro must be getting on the brakes a lot earlier. Not sure just how good at that McLaren 650S actually does pull up. The Ferraris, being a lot lighter, should actually be able to pull up a little bit later, so that's probably what's going on. Going up the hill, it seems that Azuro gets away quite well. Being that little bit more torquey may have advantage. And saying that, Weaven is not giving Azuro a break just yet. There was a little bit of understeer going on for Azuro. That's allowed Weaven to catch back up a little bit more. Only 0.2 of a second off Azuro's tail. Gallen's 1.5 seconds off the race leader at the moment, so he's slipping behind. Then he's got about another 4 seconds between him and there's a normal, so he's pretty safe, and he's not away from the race leaders just yet, so he can have another crack to try and keep some points. But finishing on the podium won't be a disaster for Gallen. He needs at least podium finishes, and he should be able to continue his lead in the championship. And Azuro, all he would be seeing is Weaven. He's going for that pass. Oh, there's contact. This is going to be devastating. Azuro smashed out in front of him. Weaven side by side. I'm not sure if Weaven steered out into that and caused Azuro to actually go off, but that's going to be race ending for Azuro. Can he get back on without causing much issues? That car doesn't want to steer. That's absolutely devastating for Azuro. He's going to have to bring that straight into the pits. That's a big spill. You could see as Weaven was going for that inside pass down Conrod, so that's at 270 k's an hour these two were doing. And we saw Azuro trying to hold that line. I'm not sure if he actually did steer into it. But then the spin out afterwards almost T-boned into Weaven. That would have potentially taken both out. Then Gallen would have been home free for reclaiming the lead in the race. Unfortunate for Azuro, that was some brilliant driving in those 4 laps. That'll be a very interesting incident to review tomorrow. So if you haven't yet, be sure to click like on our Facebook page so that you can actually get up to date with our results and standings and incident reports. You can even, if you do have Android, we have the Apex eSports League app on the Android store. It's free to download, and it has just a click away and it'll bring up the results images to our Facebook page, and that way if you don't actually have a Facebook account, it doesn't matter, but I'm pretty sure you can actually just look up the Apex eSports League page from a public browser and you do not need an account to actually see what's on that page. It's only if you want to get involved in our group is when you would need an account. Yeah, I think it may have been Azuro turning in. And we've got these three closing in on each other very quickly. Oh, Birdie's just spun out. It's too early on the throttle, potentially coming out of Murray's corner. It's quite easy to spin the cars out there, especially with this thing. Once that thing starts to slide with the weight of that car, it's just going to dive off track. Gina's managed to cover a fair bit of ground. We did see him fall to the back after we saw Sunty pass him. So we saw Sunty pass him down along this spot just a lap before, I think it was. So he's recovered quite well up into 6th position. Azuro has managed to retain in 7th position. Not sure if he'd been in and pitted at all. And Strasbourg's down the field in 8th position at the moment. So he's 4 seconds behind Azuro. Azuro's got damage. Actually, no, he did look beaten up when we were checking him out when he was off in the kitty litter. So he has obviously repaired that. And we saw Sami go off and make wall contact before as well. Oh, and Santi's just gone off. It looks like on a held corner. So it's going to be a long lap if that car is going to be performing poorly for him. Doesn't look to be steering crooked at all, so it should be alright. You can probably weather that out for 4 laps. Demon Effects closing in on as a normal. Weaven leading the race at the moment. His last lap at 2:07, Gallen at 2:06. Gallen could close that in quite quickly. We'll see what the fastest lap so far for the sprint race. Fastest laps are 2:06.731. That's set by Gallen in just the lap gone around. If he keeps up this pace, he's going to be potentially looking at passing Weaven in this lap. Gallen looking quite safe at the moment with maintaining some championship points. Weaven finishing with a victory here, and Gallen in second won't really be too much of an issue. So the sprint race, 30 points is up for grabs for a race win, 25 points for second position. And Gallen did just take 20 points for a pole, and Weaven 18 points for taking second. Over in the main race, there's 60 points up for grabs for a win. The way win in the main tonight and at a pole position in that qualifying session, there's 80 points up for grabs. That's where it isn't over for those that are only just behind Gallen by 90 points. They can still have potential for winning if we see an incident like what we had with Azuro. If that happens to Gallen and he falls down towards the back of the field, he starts to see some much lower points. The finishing 10th in this sprint race is only worth 10 points. And then the main race, taking 11th would be 18. Gallen just needs to ensure he gets that car around clean and safe, and as high up the ladder as he can. Not too many risks. Can Demon Effects catch up to this McLaren up Mountain Straight? Slowly catching up. The McLaren seem to do quite well going up the mountain. Lap 7, 2 laps to go. Last lap set, Weaven set a 2:08. And Gallen also in the 2:08s. That was very close. If you're new to our streams, be sure to hit that follow button. We appreciate seeing our followers grow in number. And also check out our YouTube channel link there as well. All our past broadcasts get saved to there, that you can always go back and check out any of our past broadcasts, as Twitch doesn't keep them forever, where they'll be over in YouTube for all our races. Gallen's falling back a little bit. I think he's a little bit off pace for this lap. He was a second quicker the lap before. If he keeps the 2:06, he'll get 5 bonus points for setting fastest lap. So a lot of the drivers spacing out a fair bit. Bertie's dropped to 4 seconds behind Demon Effects. So we saw him after he entered in a little bit of a spin coming out of Murray's corner. Demon Effects is getting closer and closer every lap. He's much closer to be able to take advantage of a slipstream. He's going to have a nice alignment. It's not going to be enough time to be able to do a pass. Oh, they are so close. Nearly touching those cars going up into the cutting. And it looks like there's potentially a brake light out on Ezanomal's car. We'll have a look. Showing if that's just ambient light reflections. So he may have taken a little bit of rear damage. Oh, big wall contact. That's going to cost him. Has managed to be able to still. Oh, and then Demon Effects has taken a hit before heading into the S's. Both drivers very lucky to have only a minor scrape with that. That's going to be allowing Bertie to try and close that gap in now. That big Bentley starting to hone in on these two after those errors going over the mountain. See just how quick Bertie's going in this beast of a machine. It is droning. It'll be a lot harder to pull this thing up going into the chase. Let's see. It holds quite well coming through the chase. Quite flat foot. Nice line through Murray's. That car lights up quite nice. If the neon's around the front grille and those headlights are on. It's a quite tidy car. Gallen's now almost another second quicker off on that last lap. He's starting to catch back up on Weaven again. And as you said earlier, Ghetto, it is a Gallen and Weaven show. Zero hasn't been able to recover too much ground, but it is only 2 seconds off Gina at the moment. So there is a potential for him to recover another position. He's got about 14 seconds to catch up to the next car, so it's not going to be a good opportunity with lap 9. But considering just how bad it could have been at that spot coming down Conrod, have an accident at that speed, and there was quite a hard wall hit. I think it's safe for Weaven to be claiming victory unless he makes a mistake here. You can start to hear the crowd clapping. It'll be a race win here unless he messes up coming into the last corner. Gallen is coming in pretty hot. Weaven takes a nice line. Brakes a stream, double flashing lights. Slowed down a little bit to try and do a double cross. They've tried to do that on other races as well. It's well done to Weaven and Gallen. Weaven taking first, Gallen in second. Ezenormal in third. Flash of the lights. Well done to Ezenormal. That is a good recovery after a 2 grid place penalty. Demon Effects in fourth, Birdie in fifth. Gina coming up in sixth. He's pretty safe unless he messes up here. Zero is 3 seconds behind. Nice line. Gina comes up finishing in sixth. 100 seconds for the last laps to be done. Azura crosses in seventh. Strasbourg coming up in 8th position. Sami and Santi to bring up the rest of the field. I think I'll have time to actually get across the line potentially here. Well done to Sami coming across the line in 9th position. And Santi should have enough time to get this car across the line. See what lap he's on. Yes, so all drivers finishing up the full 9 laps over the mountain is quite good. It's not something you see too often. There's usually been some lappings even in the sprint races. Pretty tidy race considering. And Santi comes up into 10th position. Plenty of time to get that car across the line. All cars doing a nice slide across the line by Santi. Packard is also disconnected as well, so didn't just get DQ'd at the start for not being back in time. But we have on the top of the podium is Weaven 777, Gallen 350 in second, Ezenormal in third, and followed by Demon Effects, Bertie, Gina, Azuro, Strasbourg, Sami, Santi, And then that is the full field. So we have fastest lap set. I think it was still a 2:06 by Gallen, so 2:06.731 is the fastest lap. So that's been set by Gallen, so 5 bonus points go to him. So a very nice result for all drivers on this. So we'll be heading off for about a 9-minute break. So we'll be leaving you with some lovely images of some of the hampers that you can find from Hamper HQ. So their website's hamperhq.com.au. There's probably some good time to be able to get in some orders for Christmas if that's what you wanted to be able to send away. So be sure to check that out, and we'll be back soon with session 2. So we'll be heading off into 15-minute qualifying and then the main race, which is 18 laps. So it should be very exciting. So stay tuned, and we'll be back in about 9 to 10 minutes. we are back for session 2, so heading over into 15 minutes of qualifying. So we will be having game time is 12 o'clock, weather is light cloud. We should see some very quick qualifying times in this session, and then the main race is 18 laps. Game time will be 1 PM, and then the weather is clear. Very hot conditions. Season is summer. We'll see some blistering lap times being set for the main race. It was very tight between all the drivers. We saw Weaven 777 take a great win in the first race. Zero has disconnected. He may be able to get back in. And Simo Simsel has been able to make it for the second session. This will be good to see how the Lamborghini goes around the mountain. We haven't seen too much of a difference in the end. Oh, just bring that around. I don't think he's taken damage. A little bit slippery on those cold tyres. Let's see just what sort of fuel load he's running. It's got enough to get a good few laps in. The other driver's out now. There's Simo in his Lamborghini. There's a bit of talk about tyre pressures, just what to run to try and combat the variety of technical turns over the mountain. That Lamborghini sounds beautiful, screaming up over the top of the mountain. It's holding pretty good at that speed coming on the skyline. This Lamborghini might be quite formidable against these Ferraris. We've had a 1-2. The McLaren was doing quite well getting away with some top edge speed. Ooh, a little bit of a scrape to that rear quarter. Simon gets a nice line through Forest Elbow. Not only do the drivers need to ensure that they're getting tyre temperatures up to scratch for this as well, but also brakes. As it's not too much heavy braking around the track until coming into the chase, essentially. Oh, big broad slide, but that's going to be enough for him to just spin that round, keep going. No damage to the car. Invalidate the next lap. This lap didn't count, but the next lap would be relatively slow still anyway, so it's just another chance for him to get some heat into them tyres. There's a fair bit of engine braking going on, and only feathering of the brakes, so tapping on and off mostly for a lot of the corners. And then just using the engine braking just to bring the car back in around. By the time they get down Conrod and heading off into the chase, when you have to get those brakes on really hard, the brakes have usually cooled off quite a fair bit. But in those couple of warm-up laps, riding the brake a little bit can be quite beneficial just to keep a bit of residual temperature into those brakes. When you do finally come round to be needing them into the chase, they're going to pull you up at the right spot. Otherwise, that's usually when you do tend to see drivers actually run off the chase. You'll see the left line will be his brake pressure. as he gets that car across nice and straight, full heavy brakes, trail braking into the chase. If your brakes aren't up to temp when you're looking at doing that, it's usually going to have a fair bit of brake fade. That's a nice run by Demon Effects. He's now on his hot lap. First time's coming through, 205.278 set by Gallon 350, our championship leader. Managed to finish well, taking second position plus fastest lap bonus points, and that's going to have cost him big time. If it hasn't done any damage to his car, he should battle on with it. It won't be worth bringing it back in just yet. So there's only 9 laps to go. Get rid of that. So he's potentially hard hit like that, maybe invalidated this lap. That car is quite flighty at the moment. It's running that very light fuel load will actually cause the car to skip around the track quite a fair bit. Birdie doing well. First lap at 2:08. We saw him setting 2:07s pretty consistently in the practice and qualifying before. Then we see him have an opportunity to break another second and set a 2:06. He can get himself up into quite a good qualifying position. He's going to be in a better position to endure the lengthier race. Be nice to see this Bentley get up and take some positions away from the much lighter and nimble cars. Very nice line. He's doing well with this Bentley at the moment. Scrape that wall. That was very tight. He was much more cautious coming through McPhillamy. Just gets it onto that ripple strip. He's just run that off. And a big slide. Off he goes, but that's recoverable. He's brought that in. May have been some damage. Johnna doing well for 2:08. I think we saw him take a 2:09, 2:10 in the qualifying before. And probably sneak out and have a quick look and just see what his qualifying position was. So we did set a 2:08.645 in qualifying. So at this rate, with his opening time of a 2:08.946, that Skyline's probably going to be performing quite well in the much warmer conditions at the moment. We did see the rear of the GTR quite floating. We're still seeing it there a bit as well. We're seeing quite a fair bit of oversteer. Could potentially adjust a bit of that front aerodynamics and adjust those front tyre pressures a little bit, and that may perform a little bit better. Perhaps even the anti-roll bar could be what's affecting this car. So I'm getting some nice speeds going down Conrod. He's almost topping out. 275. He's currently in fourth. He's doing well. Gallon's come through for 2:05. That's what we saw in the last qualifying session as well. We saw him set a 2:04 in the practice session, however, and that was in potentially cooler track temperatures as well. So it must have just been a very golden lap for Gallon. And touch wood for this stream as well. We've had no technical issues, no dropouts. I should spend the last few days tinkering with a few things to try and improve as much as I can for the streams. And then over the Christmas break we'll be having a couple of weeks break between races over Christmas, New Year's, and then we'll be back for the Formula Rookies, so that's the Formula Fords. So some open wheel racing and those things, you can do a fair bit of adjustments to the cars and you see a big difference in the custom setups. So it's a great way to actually learn about customizing the cars and just what sort of effects you get by adjusting things. As you see, a huge difference just from the tiniest adjustments to the car. It is actually my most driven car when I look at my statistics in game. So there's more kilometres driven in the Formula Rookie than there is in the V8 Supercar, which is then my next car of choice. Of course, Bathurst is actually the most driven, and then Long Beach. So they are a couple of my all-time favourites. It'll be very interesting to see how everyone goes contesting with little open wheelers. So be sure to stay tuned for that as we come into the new year. Oh, big broad slide. I think that's weaving. Yep, that is weaving. That's a big hit. There's not much between him and Gallen again. Oh, he spun around. Demon effects. Oh, that's cost him. Yeah, he's probably want to bring that car in. That's unfortunate for Demon. He's probably taken a fair bit of damage to that front right. Can't see too much from the cockpit view. Yet to see a time on the board for the Lamborghini. Oh, but that sounds absolutely brilliant as it goes down, Conrad. What speed is he getting? He's on par for the rest of the more top ends. 275. We've been seeing 274. A bit of lock-up coming into the chase. There is a lot of tyre marks throughout the chase. The drivers have been spinning out quite a bit there. Oh, locking it up into Murray's, but it's not a bad line. He brings that around pretty good. This is his first time on the board. Yes, a 2:13, that's not bad for a first opening time. It's locking up. It sounds like it's screeching. Might have some brake bias issues. 6.5 litres of fuel. This thing is going to be flat out. 2:45. He's on par with the big boys for top speed on the straights. Hopefully we see a nice time set by Simo here. Whoa, a little bit of oversteer. As Anomal's currently in third. He did qualify in a good position in the first session, however he did get the speeding in pit penalty, so he received 2 grid places. That cost him for the start of the race. Here we go, he's looking to get focused for a very blistering lap here. Nice line to start this lap. But he's doing well on par, 2:07, so qualifying in 4th. I think we saw him qualify in about 6th or 7th, yeah, 6th position I think it was in the first session. If you're joining us for the stream, don't forget to join in on the chat. I can see your chat, use the sound controls down below. Don't forget to hit that follow button if you haven't begun to follow our channel. Appreciate the growth that we can get. And Gallen's car's looking quite bruised and battered. Not sure what's going on. Maybe he's tinkering with something at the moment. That could be previous damage. Or if he's just looking for a spot to potentially pull the car over and bring it back to the pits. He's obviously looking at the stream. He's giving us a flash of the lights. Qualifying session is complete. Oh, he's going to make wall contact. No, so that's lucky. I don't think that's going to have invalidated his time going off. No, it hasn't. Oh, that's Weaven. I think that spun around. Or is that... No, that's Gallon that was spun around. He's probably going to... Oh, he's brought it back to the pits. Usually he heads off somewhere and does a few burnouts for us. So, Bertie, Sunty and Simo Simsel to get some improved times. 120 seconds remain. That's enough time for these guys to get their cars across the line and get an improved time. Oh, that's going to cost him. Oh, yes, definitely. That's going to smash him big time. Big hit. That's unfortunate for Simo. He's going to bring that in. Oh, and also for Sunty as well. Not sure where he spun out there, is it? That's unfortunate. Oh, that was up in the cutting. So it's up to Bert. He's the only one out there that can steal away a time. He's probably past the indicator marks to see whether he's beating his current time. Can he say if he shaves a second off, he will claim a position away from as a normal? Can he do it? No, he doesn't improve the time. Sunty just having some fun with that car at the moment as he's waiting. He's probably going to bring that to the pits now, so that'll... Can't even see what's going on, so qualifying is complete. Gallon 350 takes pole again. Also, Weaven 777 starting in second position yet again. So it is going to be a lovely, interesting start yet again. And then we have the rest of the field followed by as a normal Bertie, Demon Effect, Sami, Gina 07, Strasbourg, Sunty, and Simo Simsel. So 8.2 seconds separates the field. Simo had a little bit of room for improvement, so he'd definitely be able to shave off 3 or 4 seconds for sure. Hopefully he gets the knack of it heading into the race, as this should be pretty tight. There's not much room for improvement. There's only about 2 seconds difference between Sector 2. There's 2 seconds in Sector 1 and about 1 second in Sector 3. So it'll be a very tight, interesting race for sure. So heading over into the race already. Be interesting to see what they have gone for tyre setups. It's Bertie in that big Bentley, starting up towards the front. If he can get a nice start, he's going to be at a slight disadvantage. We'll probably see Demon Effects get ahead of him off here. Assuming there's a normal... Ooh, what's going on with car over there? Is that Sami's car? Some weird glitching going on. That's some very strange stuff. Hopefully he's not a disconnect. Be surprised if that drops out in the end. When you see the cars drop up and down, that's them changing setups. We haven't heard it. We don't have Sami drop out. So if you're there watching the stream, let us know who you think's going to take the win. think it's going to be a good battle between Gallen and Weaven yet again. Because Anomal's going to get off to a pretty good start and probably get around Bertie and the Bentley, and then also do... Oh no. Hopefully, Army's car isn't going to start on a crooked side. This is going to be... It is! It has started him crooked. What's going on? That is an absolute disadvantage. All side by side, both Weaven and as Anomal. We saw that happen at the start of the race last time between Weaven and Azuro. And then we saw the McLaren have a huge advantage down Mountain Straight. As Anomal isn't able to reproduce what we saw Azuro do in the start of the first race. Sami's gone right to the back of the field. Wouldn't be surprised if he's received a drive through. He may have had a jump start. Back as Anomaly is in a very good position for this so far, I think. He may be right, Slinky. There's a good chance as Anomal's going to get ahead. Gallen and Weaven are going to be in for a good fight with as Anomal. We would have seen a McLaren potentially take the win in the first race if it wasn't for the turn in by Azuro down Conrod, making contact with Weaven. It wasn't able to recover enough. Gallen's getting ahead pretty quickly. We saw that McLaren have a huge advantage going up the hills. He's breaking that stream. He's not allowing Weaven to try and catch up. Nice line into the chase. Weaven took quite a hard line. Now, as Anomal's been with us, I think, for this series. He did start with us. I think he debuted in round 1 of the series. He's had some bad luck throughout the series with a couple of accidents pushing him back towards the field. He's usually recovered pretty well, Slinky. But usually he's qualified in a bad position, so he's usually forgot to put on the pit limiter and usually speeds in qualifying. We saw him take a 2 grid place penalty in the first session. So qualifying 4th, set him back to 6th. So not taking the grid place penalties for this session just gone has put him into a good start to be able to start at the front of the field. Yeah, I quite regularly forget to hit that speed limiter and cop penalties when I'm doing it. Last lap, Weaven and as a normal just set a 2:15. Gallen set a 2:13. So you can see why he's put that 2-second lead over now. Oh, he's going for a pass down to Forest Elbow. This is tight. It's not enough. That would have been an accident for both of them. He had to resend and pull back in behind as a Normal's car. We saw Weaven have to get on the brakes and take a much different line coming into the chase before, because he's got so much more speed than what he's usually getting. Oh, but as a Normal also runs off wide, so that's allowed both of them to recover. Weaven is definitely going very hard. Slinky, he's very focused on as a Normal. He wants to take that position. Oh, he's going to have a pass on Hell Corner. This is a very nice line. Nice pass by Weaven. Takes that inside line. But the McLarens had speed advantage coming up Mountain Straight. The Can Ezen now tuck back in and move out for a nice outside move? No, he's not close enough, I think. He's just going to have to be patient, tuck back in and sit on it. We've seen the McLarens tend to get ahead a fair bit going up over the mountain. There seems to be a lot more chalky going up the hill. The Ferraris seem to be a little bit more nimble going down the mountain. As is slipping behind just a little bit now. We have Demon Effects and Bertie contesting for 4th position. Oh, wall contact, but that's not too bad. Just a bit of a scrape. Nice line out McPhillamy. Oh, but he runs wide on Skyline. It's recoverable. Gets that car back across, ready to head down the S's. Bertie's just cut down through the S's, so he's going to be given a slowdown. I'm not sure if he's going to worry about obeying by it. He's probably just going to wear a time penalty. He's going to have a little while to obey it. But backing off down Conrad is not a very good idea. You shave off that little bit of a slowdown coming down Conrad and you're going to lose a position for sure. Where a 1 second penalty is worth a slap on the wrist for, especially over the course of 18 laps. It looks like he may not have got the penalty though, so we haven't seen the red indicator come up on the side of the standings board. So look at the rest of the field. So there's a little bit of spacing going on up towards the top. So the second between Demon FX and Bertie. Strasbourg is honing in on Simo. So they're pretty much on par. He's about 0.3 of a second quicker than Simo. Yeah, that Bentley does look good with those lights on, with those green neons around that front grille. It looks amazing. You'd want a few fancy bells and whistles like that when people drop as much cash as they do on a Bentley. And that Lamborghini is sounding amazing, burning it up Mountain Straight. And Giant 07 is honing on Sami. So Sami had a big disadvantage at the start of the race with a game glitch. It was very unfortunate for him, with that car skipping about, and then it turned his car around at the start. I have never seen that before. That was very odd. But it doesn't look like it gave him a drive-through though, which is very lucky. He did try and turn that car around, try and get an actual at least start straight rather than where he was. Oh, these guys are tight. Oh, broad slide. That's unfortunate for Simo. It's not too much damage. Oh, but he's put it in another wall. He was doing quite well. He was feeling the pressure. Strasbourg now manages to move up into 7th position. Sami not far behind. Yeah, Skyline over Skyline Slinger, that is great. That Skyline we've seen in tonight's session is quite flighty in the rear. It seems to be skipping about a fair bit. He's been struggling to try and keep that rear grip on the car, otherwise I think it would have been a very good weapon over the mountain. He's looking to get back ahead up on that grid. Oh, he's going for an outside line. Strasbourg's backing off and allowing the position. Deciding to play it safe and not risk making contact coming into Hell Corner. He's getting ahead, and it looks like Giant is about to be able to have a pass. Oh, there's a little bit of contact. Side by side, I think. I wonder if Strasbourg's lost a bit of speed. He may have some performance issues going. Oh, there's rear contact again. Two of them back again. So they do a bit of a switch and then they've both made contact. I'm not sure what was going on there. That front bar is gone. That's quite interesting. It looks like it's almost censored on the front. It's all blurry on that front bar, so that's unfortunate for him. Simo's brought that Lambo into the pits. Strasbourg's got a fair bit of damage. He just drove over Gina's front bar. Dirty doing not too bad. Really fighting that Bentley on the brakes coming down the Forest Elbow. If he tucks in behind Demon Effects Ferrari going down Conrod, that will be a good advantage for this big beast. Get some good speed. Should be able to see probably 280. No, not quite. We're seeing 274 usually for him. Oh, just up on that ripple strip down through the chase. There he goes into Murray's. Big on the brakes. I think he's a... Oh no, he's not too far off pace. He's only 0.3 of a second off pace of Demon Effects. He keeps plugging at this. He's definitely going to possibly catch up to that Ferrari. It'd be nice to see the Bentley finish up towards the top. Gallon 350 leading by 4 seconds, 6 laps in. And here's our championship leader as well. After taking second, falling behind Weaven. Weaven is the next contender after Gallon. He's just leading by just less than 90 points. Pole positions have helped, so that's an extra 40 points added to his tally, plus a second place and potentially a race win here. Will definitely possibly secure Gallon's position for the championship. So for a clean sweep in the final round next week at Zhuhai International Circuit for the main race. For that entire round they can take 145 points towards the championship. So that's taking pole position, a race win and fastest lap. Regina and Strasbourg both in the pits. This could not be too disadvantaged to them, as it could serve them for their mandatory pit if they can battle out another 12 laps, which should be pretty safe to do so if they've adjusted their strategies to contend with an earlier pit. Regina gets away quicker than Strasbourg. They're all both pretty similar. So if their tyres hold out and they're fine for fuel, he's got plenty of fuel. Both cars running quite heavy loads there, enough fuel. If their tyres can last out, they will be fine and recover a few positions potentially once others head into the pits. And there still can be plenty of accidents. So here comes Gallon. White flag shown to Strasbourg. Sorry, white flag, blue flag. So heaps of debris all over there where we saw Gina and Strasbourg have their incident. There's more cars being caught up to now. That would be Timo's car, I think, or is that maybe Gina still that Gallon needs to catch up on? So Weaven seems to have gotten around Strasbourg as well. As Anomalous fallen 5 seconds behind Weaven. Those two were fighting it out pretty fiercely for a while. Looking at fuel loads, I think it may be fine for as Anomal. So if he doesn't have any incidents, he could potentially have a nice quick pit stop. Have a look and just see what's going on. The McLaren's a little bit lighter on fuel than what the Ferrari is. The McLaren is a little bit more thirsty than what the Ferrari is. 7 laps in, a fair bit of spacing amongst the cars now. Bertie's slipped behind Demon Effects by another 2 seconds, sorry, 3 seconds now. Look at that Bentley roaring up behind him. So being mandatory pit for our race leaders, pit stop is probably going to be quite heavily key. So as Anomal's just gotten around Strasbourg as well. Demon Effects also making that pass, so he gets around nice and safe. Nice line through Hell's Corner. Demon Effects catching up pretty quickly. He's 0.3 of a second last lap quicker than what As a Normal was. Over a few laps he could potentially be sitting on the tail of As a Normal. And Simo had already pit early on as well after we saw him spin out and have that accident in that exact spot that he's just gone down him through the S's. Oh, and you see how he's gone for lap times. 2:13 is his fastest lap. Current fastest lap of the race is 2:06.841. That's set by Gallen again. Very consistent times. Demon Effects is really closing that gap in on As a Normal at the moment. Close that time in a lot quicker again. Get a little bit of a slip from Azza at this stage. On board with Demon Effects as he's hunting down As a Normal for a spot at the podium. Demon also usually ends up with a bit of bad luck in some of the races where he gets involved in an incident elsewhere and then usually puts him out for the race. Demon does some very tidy driving. We've seen him round up many positions in a variety of races throughout our series. Trying to break that slipstream advantage. Oh, that's going to be very interesting here. Oh, wall contact. Demon manages to move back in around. As a Normal would need it to be on the anchors a little bit more, holding that inside line. Otherwise he would have ran out wide coming through the apex. Thanks for joining us all for the stream as well. If you haven't hit that follow button yet, be sure to do so to get notified of all our races. We do have the final round coming up next week. We'll get to see who gets to take home the wonderful prize of a $165 hamper full of alcohol and tasty nibblies and chocolates as well. So stay far. Gallon 350 is leading his way to enjoying that lovely hamper. That's all courtesy of hamperhq.com.au for sponsoring this series and offering up that lovely prize to the winner. Be sure to check them out as well. If you follow our Facebook page or are a member of our groups, we also put links up to all that as well. And Simo Simsels back into the pits again. Not sure if he's got some damage going on. Can we see him catch back up on Ez's McLaren? He's honing in pretty quickly. Won't be enough to try and make a pass here. He's going to probably have to sit back for a while and try and get him possibly on Conrod. Barely hear that Ferrari over the roar of the McLaren. Don't forget there are the sound effects that you can play down below as well if you're joining us for the Twitch stream. You can play some cheers and applauses and some other fun sound effects for any incidents that may occur. To have some fun with the stream. And Ez is doing quite well. He's not allowing demon effects to try and catch up too quickly. But Ez is now about half a second quicker on that last lap. Where the rest of the field separated a fair bit some. He's got another 4 seconds to catch up on Sunty. So it's these two that are the closest at the moment, so they're only a couple of seconds apart. Our race leader's now leading the race by 6 seconds. And his last lap is 2 seconds quicker, 3 seconds quicker than Weaven, so he's going to continue to further that lead. So now we've just reached the halfway mark for the race. We'll potentially see some cars going in. Demon Effects is going to have to manage to make sure he pulls that car up in time. Under 60, nice and quick into the pits, brilliantly done. So this will be him serving his mandatory pit. So Gallen, Weaven and Ez Anomal all needing to head into the pits at some stage as well. And then last laps, Gallen setting a 207 and then also Weaven a slow 207. There's a normal and Sunty setting 211s. Sunty's got about 14 seconds to catch up on as a normal. They both need to pit. So Demon Effects now served his mandatory pit. And back out onto the field. If he can have a blistering lap now. And catch some more ground. Once the rest of the guys head in for their pits, if they have a lengthier pit, you could see him recover maybe a position or two. Check out the rest of the field. Simo's had to head in for another pit. Not sure if that was to grab some fuel or not. I think he may have topped up a little bit of fuel. He may have only done repairs at the start, so he may have needed to head in for some tyres. He was discussing tyre pressures in the lobby just before this session. So he hadn't managed to tinker with that enough in the qualifying. He may not have had some good pressures that made the tyres last, so we saw the car spinning a fair bit, especially on there. Some bad tyre pressures would be affecting the performance of that car. Here comes Bertie. He's going to probably allow that to go around. He would have had the blue flag shown, so great courtesy there. Simo allowing Bertie to get through nice and clear. Oh, big lock coming down in the forest. Surprisingly just how big and heavy this thing is. It pulls up relatively good. Birdie's doing well to get this car around the mountain like he is, considering he's doing it on a control. The rest of the lads is majority, if not the rest of them, are doing it on the steering wheel. But he hasn't been using a wheel at all. He did join me in the Kia Optima Championship on iRacing on Tuesday night just gone. It's the first time using a steering wheel, and he said it felt very strange to be doing so after driving so long. He's been with us for a long time in Apex. And then he was always performing and finishing very strong, and we didn't all believe him when he told us that he did all in the controller. So, fantastic job by Bertie. Demon Effects powering through quite nice. He's got a decent amount of fuel, he's going to be fine. Sami now closing in on Santi. Sami's doing well, he's recovered well after that unfortunate start for him. I think he was at a disadvantage to the start of the race from the glitch, making his car start sideways instead of facing forwards. He tried to fix it before the lights went green. Ooh, nice line coming down into the chase. A little bit of an understeer coming through, but that managed to hold. The ribs pulled him back in line. Into Murray's corner. Brilliant line by both. I think he's going to possibly get around Santi here. He gets another nice line. Good exit speed. Yeah, that's brilliant exit speed. He's going to have much higher speed coming out of that if he can tuck in behind Santi's Ferrari. I don't think it's going to be enough time to possibly get around in time to get up in around the bend. Nice line coming up onto the ripple strip. Santi taking a much inner line coming through. Oh, he slides that car. Oh, contact. That's potential damage. I think Sami took a little bit. Can Santi get that car around there? I can hear another McLaren coming. Strasbourg gets around safely. He's going to need to try and get that car around. We can see what's going on now. Oh, that car's taken a big hit. I think there's some steering issues going on for him. Unfortunate for Santi. But Sami and Demon Effects have now reclaimed another position. I don't think Santi's been into the pits, so this lap will be needed for him to head in for his mandatory pit if he hasn't done so. Demon Effects hunting down Sami now. Lock of the brakes and some squealing tyres as he absolutely pushed that car around Forest Elbow. He's going to be honing down this McLaren down Conrod. He's doing absolutely well at the moment. Going to have to get on the brakes a little bit early, however, to get this nice line. Now McLaren gets away a little bit quicker. He wasn't prepared for that. I don't think Sami's been in the pits though. Demon has peeled off into the pits, so he doesn't want to go making a risky move for a pass, and possibly Sami still has to go off and get his pit. He's got a fair bit of a gap for Ez and Normal, but Ez has got to go in for a pit. Demon Effects was sitting right on the tail of Ez and Normal before heading off to serve his mandatory pit. Ez and Normal's going to have to... Ooh, wall contact. They're going to have to decide when they're going to pit just yet. Sami's closing back in on Demon Effects again. Looks like Demon Effects may have made a mistake. The covered and getting away quite quickly on Sami yet again. So over to our race leader. We haven't seen too much. Dunty's just received a time penalty, so he's just obviously heading to the pits, and he was possibly speeding, so 10 seconds given to him. Didn't see whether he did actually get up into the pits or not, but a heavy time penalty like that's usually speeding in pits. So not much coverage of Gallen, as he's been well ahead of the field in this race. Almost 9 seconds ahead of Weaven. He's about 0.3 of a second off on the last lap compared to Weaven. Then Weaven's pretty safe. Ezza is a fair way behind at this stage. It's about 25 seconds difference between the two. Ooh, wall contact. There'll be definitely some sort of fatigue setting in on the drivers. 15 laps in around the mountain. The arms would be feeling sore. The legs would be starting to cramp. And that mental fatigue setting in. And you can get a little bit complacent too once you are just basically driving out there on your own, when you don't see anyone in your mirror or anyone off on the horizon. But these two are setting some pretty consistent times. So the last lap set by Weaven is his best lap, so 2:07.599. Gallen's a 2:07.241, so still quicker, but he still holds the fastest lap of a 2:06. As a normal 35 seconds behind the race leader, but he's still in for a shot at taking a podium at least. However, Gallen, Weaven and Ezza do need to pit. Next car following up behind by about 16 seconds is Demon Effects in the Ferrari, and he has served his pit. So all he needs to do is just do the next 3 laps. If he can keep some good pace. So Gallen and Weaven both a little bit off pace now. Gallen just setting a 2:08 and Weaven a 2:10. As a normal, also a 2:11. My Demon Effects last lap was a 2:09. His best lap is a 2:09.191. He could definitely potentially catch some ground up, so I think about 20-25 seconds for a quick stop and go pit stop. So if they don't need to change tyres, it's usually only about 5 seconds that you get held in the pit bay. Gallen, Weaven and Ezra are going to have to pit in the next lap or so. Now we have seen these guys pit in the last lap, so I think we'll see either Gallen or Weaven pit this lap, and then one of the others in the following, as they're in matching team colours, and we've found they tend to share a pit bay. We'll see if Gallen peels off now. It's probably best if he peels off now with a 12.5 second lead over Weaven. Will he go off? No, he's going around for another lap yet. So we'll see Weaven head into the pits now, I think. No, they're not. They're going to leave it for the next lap. They're obviously going to be both doing a pretty quick stop and go. There's potential there for Gallen to get in and out. Oh, we can hear someone doing a bit of squealing. Sounds like a Lamborghini. Oh, big heavy on the brakes. He's catching up to Sunty. So he's on lap 15 at the moment. Sunty's on lap 16. So Simo is catching back up. He's been lapped, but he's catching back up to try and recover a lap down. Can he catch up to Sunty and try and recover a lap? Seeing this Lamborghini get quite flighty down through here. Car performing nicely at the moment. Oh, that's nice. Nice line indeed. Can he follow it up through Forest Elbow? Bit of oversteer. He's going to be showing the blue flag here. I think that's Gallen. That's Gallen catching up to him at the moment. But at this rate, Gallen needs the pit, so it's not going to be worth trying to get past him. If he's only going to just be instantly getting off over to the other side and passing otherwise, it could cause a bit of confusion. He's staying left. Into the pits he goes. So he did move over. Oh, is he going to shave off that time? He needs to make this a very quick 70k. He's got to shave off. Oh, nice and safe. He needs to make this a quick one. And here comes Weaving into the pits as well. Very quick into the pits. Oh, shaves it off. And Gallen is away. Let me make that also a quick pit. Yeah, stop and go. Very quick indeed. Not going to be enough to be able to catch up on Gallen just yet with just one lap remaining. As a normal now peels off. A little bit more cautious coming into the pits. Brilliantly done. And now that leaves Demon Effects. He's going to get that position away from as a normal. So he's away, but Demon Effects is well ahead. Demon Effects going to see himself on the podium if nothing goes wrong this lap. He's got some back markers coming up. I think that was Giant 07 we saw just ahead. Oh, he's got some significant damage to that poor skyline. That may be residual from another one, so the car seems to be performing okay at this stage. He's obviously had it repaired. The game doesn't refresh the graphics for windscreens and the like. Only puts wings and bars back on, but leaves all scrapes and nicks and shattered glass be visual. Here's Gallen flashing the lights already. So he's probably looking at the stream, knowing he's got 13 seconds. He'll probably slow down a little bit and try and do a side-by-side finish with him and Weaving like they have the last couple of races. Demon's done well, so only 20 seconds behind Weaving at this stage and 34 seconds off the race leader. That's a brilliant drive for this race. And also for Sami as well, after qualifying in a nice position but then losing several positions off the start just by way of a glitch. So Gallen didn't slow down too much, so he just crossed the line, race complete, takes victory. The AI cutting the corner in Hell's Corner. And here comes Weaving, spot on the podium, taken second. Well done to Weaving. Demon Effects coming up, down into the chase. Brilliant drive by Demon. Nice and easy. Round Murray's. Flash the lights, brings it home in Third position, he's on the podium. Congratulations, Demon. Lovely drive tonight. Same with Ezza as well. Is he going to handbrake it across the line? No. Congratulations, Ezza, in fourth position. Also to Sami as well. He wants to make sure nothing goes wrong here, and he has Strasbourg flying down for him. He's going to let these guys through. Showing the blue flag. Oh, runs off. He's safe. Bertie's a little bit behind him. Brings it back home in fifth position. Bertie flashing the lights. Finishes in sixth. Well done. Santi's got 60 seconds to get the car back across the line. Sporting a bit of damage. I think that's probably impacting his car at the moment. A couple of flashes of the light. He's done well, some good recoveries after a couple of incidents. So finishes in seventh, nice slide and hit over the line. It's Giant Skyline. He's not going to have time to bring it across the finish line in time, so that should see him finish in eighth. There we have it, the end of round 3. So final round is next week. So we've seen Gallen take a double pole, a victory in the main race for tonight, and Weaven 777 with a nice win in the first race. So congratulations, Gallen, taking victory in this race. Also on the podium in second is Weaven 777 and Demon Effects in third, followed by Ezanomal, Sami, Bertie, Santi, Gina, Strasbourg and Simo Simsel. So congratulations all drivers, as only one lap down in the end, and that's with 2 pit stops by Simo Simsel, so very well done to all drivers there. That is quite good. And then the fastest lap is taken by Gallen 350 with a 2:06.537. Not too far behind was Weaven 777 with a 2:07.599, so very tight indeed. So final round is next week. So we have just the one race, so a long endurance race. So that's at Zhuhai International Circuit. So that'll be very interesting to see indeed. So do not miss out that. So be sure to hit that follow button so we can get notified for our next round. So at 7:30 PM Australian Eastern Daylight Time for those that aren't in New South Wales. So you can get your different time zones sorted, but yeah, hit the follow so you'll get the notification when we go live. We do put out reminders on our Facebook page as well, so if you check out our Facebook page, head over to our YouTube channel and hit subscribe there. You can check out all our past races as well, and then we also have the Apex eSports League app on the Android store, so you can always go and get it, and it has all the results and standings, and you can find out what happened with some of the incidents. So it'll be very interesting to see the incidents from race 1 from tonight. So be sure to head over there and just see what the outcome is once we review those incidents between Azura and Weaven. So thanks for tuning in. Be sure to catch us same time next week on Thursday night for the final round of the Hamper HQ GT3 World Tour, and see who gets to claim the $165 hamper provided of courtesy of Hamper HQ. So be sure to check out hamperhq.com.au as well and see what hampers may be available for you. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you trackside next week.